The massacre of Cerro Maravilla occurred on the night of the 25th of July, 1978. 3 people took hostage of the taxi driver Julio Ortiz Molina and ordered him to take them here to Cerro Maravilla. 2 of those people were 18-year-old Carlos Soto Arribí and the 24-year-old Arnaldo Darío Rosado. These students were pro-independence activists of the Movimiento Revolucionario Armado. The other, Alejandro González Maravé, was an undercover police officer. The officer was posing as a member of the group protesting for the imprisonment of Puerto Rico nationalists convicted of the attempted assassination of the President Harry S. Truman in the 1950 and the 1954 shooting at El Capitolio. Their mission was to destroy these communication towers. When these men arrived here, they were ambushed and shot by the state police officer. Both of the young protesters died in the ambush. The undercover agent received a minor bullet wound during the shooting, while the taxi driver was not injured. The next day, the officer declared that they acted in self-defense. The officer said that by ordering the activists to surrender, the activists opened fire, for which they did the same. The taxi driver stated that he hid under the dashboard of his taxi when the shooting started, and he did not see who shot first. Surprisingly, a few days later, he contradicted his statement in an interview at the San Juan Star by testifying that he ducked under the dashboard after the 2 activists and the undercover agent left the taxi, and that he saw 10 heavily armed men approaching. Upon leaving their hiding place, the 3 men were still alive, although 2 of them were beaten by armed men who were later identified as policemen. The governor of Puerto Rico at the time, Carlos Romero Barceló, glorified the officers in a statement broadcast on television, calling them héroes. Also, he declared that they acted in self-defense and they stopped a terrorist attack. Facing public pressure over the conflicting testimony of the taxi driver, the governor ordered 2 separate investigations by the Puerto Rico Department of Justice, apart from the investigation that was being carried out by the police, which indicated that the actions of the officers were free of misconduct, despite several inconsistencies in their statements. On 2 separate occasions between 1978 and 1980, special investigations were conducted by the Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice and by the FBI. The 2 investigations concluded that the officers acted in self-defense. In an investigation conducted between 1981 and 1984, the U.S. Department of Justice and the local press uncovered a conspiracy to murder activists and a possible, if unproven, plan to hide these actions. In interviews conducted by the Senate Investigative Committee in 1983, a detective from the Intelligence Division of the Puerto Rico Police Department, Miguel Cartagena Flores, testified that when he arrived at the scene, he saw 4 police officers pointing their weapons to their activists who were kneeling in front of them. And he looked back and heard 5 gunshots. On November 29th of 1983, 3 prosecutors were dismissed after a report issued by the Senate Investigation Committee found that they had not properly investigated the Cerro Maravilla murders, citing 101 specific deficiencies in 2 investigations. That same year, in the general elections held in November, Romero Barceló lost his position as governor against the former rival governor of the opposite party, Rafael Hernández Colón. On April 29, 1986, 2 months after granting him immunity for testifying against the other guards, González Maravé was murdered in front of his mother's house in Bayamón. González Maravé was shot 3 times and his mother was slightly wounded. Hours later, a group identified as the Organización Voluntaria para la Revolución called the local news agencies. In their declarations, they swore to kill one by one all of the police officers involved in the murders in Cerro Maravilla. As of today, no one has been identified as a possible suspect in the murder of González Maravé, and the case remains unsolved. Till this day, members from the Independent Party of Puerto Rico celebrate their deaths on every 25th of July.